Okay. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Coming to you from colorful Colorado, painting colors of winter. Sorry I didn't get on yesterday. I had some internet issues, so hopefully our connection stays strong and we get through this sucker. Okay, so I wanted to redo this tutorial because I felt like the first one I did kind of missed some points. So I'm redoing it, and let's see. Go over, you're going to be doing these on the 12 by 16 canvases, and I'm working on a teeny like 8 by 10, but regardless, I would still use the same brushes. So otherwise those streaks get a little out of control. So I like to use that medium square and filbert for the trees and little round. And then I haven't even done my paints yet. So we're going to use pretty much all the primaries. And you'll probably use, I don't have it with me, but I would probably give them just a little bit of phthalo as well, so that they can make that pretty turquoise. I'm just going to make it with what I've got here, but they'll need a little bit of white, and you don't really use a ton of color because we use so much water with the paint. So these are all like brand new bottles. Hopefully they don't explode on me. Let's see. A little dark blue, just need a smidge of that. And cobalt blue. Oh boy, making a mess here. I tried to grab some paints before I left. And they're all new bottles. And from going over the mountains, they got a little bit of pressure built up in them. And red, new bottle. So all the colors plus some phthalo. Phthalo green. Okay, let's make sure I'm still running. Looks like I am. All right. So there's our colors and water, got my brushes. Okay, we're good to go. So where I like to have them start when I start this is we're gonna be running the color straight through, like the whole canvas. So people really seem to have a hard time going up and down. I let them know they can't absolutely do that. But I found that usually people have a better success rate with this when they work side to side. So I usually like to tell them that they can orient their canvas however works best for them. I like to work sideways, but I'm gonna work in, let's see, let me get my cords out of the way here. kind of weird painting and not really having my area set up properly. All right. So where I'm gonna start is with a yellow tone, kind of a peachy tone. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of my yellow. It's like, lighten it up just a little bit with some white, and then just a smidge, a tiny, 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 tiny amount of red, so that they sort of get a nice peach, like a warmer tone. It's not like so bright, bright yellow. Okay, this is where we're gonna start. And my computer timed out. So I'm going, like I said, I'm going to be working straight through because we're going to have the light up in the sky and then the reflection down in the water. So instead of working up and then having to come back and work down, I find that just working straight across works so much better. So we're going to add a bit of the yellow in a few spots, and they're going to want some tall, nice tall streaks, and they're going to want some little shorty streaks. But we want it to look sort of like some seismic action, EKG type thing, right? So I'm just going to add a little bit there. I'm going to skip. I want to save a bit of room for my blues later, so I'm just going to skip over and do maybe a little section right here. But another thing to let them know is if their color is coming out really strong and if they want their color to mellow out just a little bit, what they can do is clean off their brush, just get it nice and damp, and just use that damp brush with no paint on it right over their lines, and it'll mellow that color out just a little bit, kind of make it look a little bit more watercolor. So, okay, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to do another little patch here, and they can use the wide side of the brush, like so. And if they're having a hard time getting those little points, they would just take that sharp edge of that brush and pull out some of those points. But whatever's on this side, they'd want to sort of try to replicate it in length and everything on the other side too. All right, I'm going to call that good with the yellow. I can always add in more later. Okay. So once my yellow's in, I'm going to clean out, and now I'm going to switch to my turquoise, like really, really, really pale turquoise. So I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow, blue, and a lot of white. They can always deepen this color up later. I give them a little bit of time to play with their colors after we get them all laid in. But I definitely encourage them to go light, and then they can darken later. So that's a really, really, really pale turquoise. And you might encourage them also to wipe some of that paint off of their brush before they go to their canvas. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, swipey, swipey, staying away from the yellows for the most part right now. Let them kind of dry up a little bit. Okay. Pull out some of those little streaks. Move on across. I'm just going to kind of fill in these bare spots with the turquoise. Just trying to sort of match my streaks. I really like to use quite a bit of the turquoise just because it's a nice color that just kind of brings everything, keeps the painting a little bit more vibrant, and no, I just like it. I want plenty of color in here. And then when I get down here, this is going to be like the short little end. So, and it goes longer strokes, then I sort of start whittling them down just a little bit. They can always kind of look at their composition and see if they want to change anything, but just kind of stay right here for now. Now, what I also like to do at this point is add a bit of water to my turquoise. I'm just going to thin it out a little bit more. Wipe some of that paint off, and then I like to come from my edges and kind of pull a little bit down from the top and the bottom. So I don't know if you can see that. It's just a nice light wash, which I can tell you when I did this in class, they didn't have the greatest success with this, but some people did. Not everybody did. I just think it kind of helps fill up some of the white space. So. All right, so there you can kind of see. All right. So I started with warm, went over to a cool color, and now I'm going to go back to my warm color. I've given the yellow a bit of time to dry. Oh man, the head of my brush just came off. I'm going to have to go get some glue. I'm just going to smack that back on there real quick though, make it work. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit more red, add to my mixture, so I get more of an orange tone now. And I'm going to start playing with this on my yellows. So I'm not taking over the yellow, I'm just adding to it. Definitely let them know not to enter the turquoise areas unless they want mud. Okay, so just kind of highlighting these areas here a little bit. All right. Okay. And now I'm gonna go into a bit of my ultramarine blue. And we're gonna start playing, I like to make a little bit of dark purple too, and sort of play with these two colors at the same time. So I'm gonna take a little bit of red, make me a purple here, dark purple, and then I just have the blue by itself. So I think I'm gonna start with my blue. And I'm just gonna start adding a few little strokies in here. With some blue. I'm just sort of going back and forth between cool colors and warm colors. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of purple. And play with this. A lot of water. Too much water on the brush. Let's kind of play with this here and there. I said they can always add. Once they get all their colors in here, they can kind of look and see what they think they need to bring back in. What colors maybe they like more. All right. We're getting there. So yellows, turquoise, oranges, blues and purples, and then pretty much the last final color. Man, my thing keeps timing out. The last color I'm gonna put in before they can really start playing is a really nice bright magenta. And the magenta can go anywhere. It can go on the oranges, it can go on the blues and the purples. So for my magenta, it's gonna be mostly red, like 3 parts red, 1 part blue, light blue, cobalt blue. And they want it to look kind of red, like red wine. If it starts looking purple, it's gonna be almost too dark to get that magenta look. So I'm just about there. And then I like to add just a little bit of white to it, just to lighten it up just a little bit. Like I said, this can go anywhere. So I think I'm gonna, let's see, we're gonna start right in here. Nice splash of color. I can go in your turquoise areas and kind of bring blend them together a little bit. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to use just a little bit right here. My computer just really keeps timing out on me. Okay. And then now, like I said, they can sort of come in and start having some fun and playing, because most of these colors now have dried enough that they're not going to blend into each other. And honestly, at this point, I'm usually using more of the purples and the blues and stuff more than I am the yellows and the oranges, but whatever. But they can really kind of come in and start kind of blending a little bit more color together. Maybe throwing in a little bit more turquoise here and there. Just really want it to get nice and colorful and blendy blendy. That, I'm gonna use a little bit more. I'll lighten up my purple just a little bit. Throw a little bit of purple on top of my pink. Okay. So you can give them some time to play with that. And then before break, I like to put on like the base of the mountain or the hill. So I just continue using that same brush, and typically what I'll do is just take a little bit of that turquoise or blue or whatever, like a blue tone or turquoise, mix that with some white. And what they're gonna do is come in here and they're just gonna split right down the middle. They're gonna bring in the hill, like so. And this is gonna pull a lot of those colors into it, which is why we want to do it before the break, so that it'll have time to dry, and then they can hit it again and brighten it up later after everything's dry. Kind of like to make that little wiggly squiggly. And once you're here, it's time for a break. So, I don't have a blow dryer here, so I can't blow dry, which isn't the worst thing ever, I guess. I could just kind of carry on. Kind of feel like I got my hill a little too high. I probably should have dropped it down just a little bit. Maybe have them kind of go lower to be on the safe side, so that they have room up at top for those trees. Okay, I think I'm just gonna wing it. So I'm gonna come in with my little round. And I'm gonna start placing my trees. All right, my computer's pissing me off. Keeps tree. Want some different heights here. Shorty. So they can do as many trees as they want. Okay, now I like to show them a couple different styles of trees. They're going to be working bigger for sure, so, but I definitely like to do my lines for the trees. And then there's a couple different ways you can show them to do trees. The first style, and since they're going to be working bigger, they might want to switch over to one of the bigger brushes, but I have them do like a filled in, really super skinny triangle, like so, skinny. Okay. And then I'm working so tiny, I've got this little brush. They can use a little brush, but then they just pull out the limbs on the sides, and it gives them a nice full lush tree, and they don't tend to go as crazy and get like really fat, huge trees doing it this way. So that's like a super easy style of tree. Another style is just to have them come in and put these little guidelines, getting a little bit wider as you work down, and then they're going to stay in that guideline. And this is where I like to use the filbert. This is more of kind of like a Bob Ross style tree with the filbert. And they leave the tip alone. Leave the tip top of the tree. Don't start this at the top. And they just come in and dab, dab, dab. And they stay within those little guidelines. And it's a little bit more of a natural looking tree. But it's just a different technique. But usually what I see people do is they start up at the top of the tree, even when I tell them not to, and they get a big old fat, they start up here. And it just, like that's, like, it's just like this. It has no tip top. So I just tell them, you're gonna have to make it taller and leave the tip top alone. So anyway, a couple different styles of trees. All right, so, and I think the last time I did this, I just did all the little skinny triangles, and most everybody that followed along with me with this style tree liked their trees way better. And they can bring that tree down into the snow too. It doesn't have to stay like floating on top of the hill. And they want to bring the foliage, honestly, like down to the ground. I think it just looks better. Okay. And just very carefully pull some of those limbs out, down to the ground. Okay. All right, so I kind of worked through the break, right? Doing my trees, waiting for this to dry. When you come back from break is when I would have them come back in here and before they do the trees and brighten up their little hill. I have to work around my trees. So I'm just kind of messy, letting some of that color peek through here and there. Just little strokes, not like really smoothing it out or anything, so. But that'll get a little bit brighter. They can even throw a little bit of color in there if they want. Maybe they want a little purple in there to give a few little shadows. And just kind of have fun with this part. Okay. Whew. So you do that after break, then do your trees. And then we're at the same point. So once the trees are done on the top, then we got to put in the reflection. Let's see, am I still running? I'm still running, yay. Okay, so letting those dry. I kind of feel like, do I need another tree? I don't know. I kind of feel like I need some like darker color right here. Like a little darker right here. I don't know. All right. I'm just gonna call it good on the trees, but I am gonna put in the reflection. So they're gonna want to use either filbert or go back to the flat brush again. And wherever there's a tree, they are pulling down a reflection line. Now, if they need to turn back over to the side again, no biggie. Got a tree right here. Got this big dude. It's going to put off a lot of reflection. If they get up into their white area, no big whoop. They can always come back in, and we're going to be putting white on here after the black dries too. So we got another tree. This is the point where sometimes the painting starts looking a little wonky. It's going through its pubescent stage. Yep. Okay. Okay, still running, still going. If they need to highlight, like retouch their hillside again. This is a good time. We're kind of waiting, making sure trees are dry, if they need to come in here and kind of clean up their line. I'm waiting for this stuff up here to set up and dry a little bit, and then they're going to do some white trees. So these are going to be tinier little trees, so I like to use the little round brush. And I'm just going to squeeze in a couple little white trees, kind of layered over the top of some of the darker colors and the trees. So just gonna do, I think in the original there's, my computer keeps dying. There's a couple right here, little short dudes. But I usually just tell people put them where there's something dark behind them. And honestly, I just sort of swipe back and forth with these little guys because they're just tiny. Here. I'll put in another. Okay. And then, of course, we have to put in the reflection of the white. So, kind of want to make sure, you might want to take a little break, like a 5-minute break or something, you know, once they get all the black in, just to ensure that their black dries. But then they're going to pull some of the reflection down over the black of the white trees, and it might pull a little bit of gray. Mine is just a little bit. That's why it might be smart just to take a quick break. Okay, so I'm going to do the tree reflections, and then we're going to come in and work little reflection lines back and forth this way. Okay. I don't know if you can see that really well. Just sort of little squiggly little reflection lines. I'm going to use one of the flat brushes for that. And then last color is a little bit of black right up underneath the hill. And I just sort of come in underneath some of my little white marks and add a little black. Okay. So we've got all the reflection in. Now we're gonna work in our sky. We're gonna make it snow a little bit, do a little spackling. So you're gonna wanna make sure whoever's assisting you is on point with their damp rags to get all the splatter up off the floor, because I've noticed that our floors are looking a little spackled. So we need to work on being better about cleaning up the spackle. Okay, so now we're gonna put in like a little falling star. And I usually like to put it somewhere where I know it's gonna show up because it's white. I'm just gonna make like a little starburst, make an X, kind of fill her in, and shoot it across, shoot her across, shoot her across. Maybe I'll put another one right here. Well, that doesn't look good. I didn't get as much color as I would have liked in the sky, so these would have shown up better if I would have had more color. But once I get those in there, splatter time. I'm gonna do it with my brush because I don't have a toothbrush, but I would use the toothbrushes. I find that people tend to be a little bit more careful with the toothbrushes. They can use any of the colors, maybe a little blue. And then I'll finish with some white for like snow. And white. Okay. And after that's done, they are done. So, just really important, like I said, let them know about the splattering and to please help us keep the studio floors clean. Important probably to take 2 little breaks. One after the color and then one after the black is applied for the trees. And yeah, other than that, it's a really fun painting. The last time I taught it, everybody had a really good time with it. So I hope y'all have fun this Friday. I missed you guys. And I think, I'm not sure if there's any more tutorials for me to do online. I'll check and see, but I do know that I believe I sent you the username and password to our Vimeo account, so if you have any questions about how to find a video or anything, let me know. All right, I'm out of here. Bye.